Welcome to Conscious Living Collective, transformative journey in consciousness with community of like-minded people. That is you. My name is Tomek. I'm a teacher, scientist, and transformation coach. In this live session, my objective is to blend some scientific research, the deep wisdom of mindfulness, and the art of fulfilled living, because that's why we're here. This is an invitation, as always, to you to have your own first-hand direct experience and hopefully emerge on the other side of this event with renewed sense of purpose and well-being. Welcome to this week's session of Conscious Living Collective. I love to see your beautiful faces just floating on the bottom of my screen, and I have to make sure that it's in the full screen in order to see it. So, hello Sandy, hello Rochelle. Carmela, welcome to Conscious Living Collective. Hello Parvane. Our Conscious Living Collective is growing. Anne, Austin, Liz, Matt. As always, I can see Diane as well. I can see Tosca. You don't even have to say anything. I just see you here floating under my screen. Who I see? I can see Anne from Brisbane. Just by looking by the icons. There you go. Matt, Francis. Yeah, I knew Diane. Yeah, here I can see you. I can see you right here. I really love those icons. They removed them at some point from the dashboard of the live event, but I'm so happy they are back here because they give me the sense of community. You can see me, but I cannot see you. So this is the only thing I have. As always, I'm curious to see if there are any new faces. Perhaps someone who's joining for the first time. Please don't be afraid to raise your hand, because I want to extend my warm welcome to you and explain that Conscious Living Collective, by definition, is about community. It's about connection and cultivating our presence in conscious awareness that ultimately makes us feel more who we are. This identified from, collective narrative. This identified from our ego, which is a conditioned part of our personality that does not cover the entirety of who you are. Who you really are is a boundless conscious awareness with unlimited possibilities. And I know that some of you in our audience, I know that from my own experience, have the first-hand experience of that, and it's a joyful place to be. So, Seth, very good to see you. There you go. Iro. Okay, I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly, but I'm glad that you are here and you joined CLC. So there you go. I want to acknowledge members of my Patreon program who've been holding the space for these events for a very long time. And you are a big part of constructing or creating this Conscious Living Collective. You are the consciousness behind it all. Hey, Meg. So today, topic that I think it's all on our minds. And the topic of today's session will be fear and how to overcome it, how to deal with this fundamental part of our existence. If I ask any one of you if you like to be afraid, the answer would be resounding no. Resounding no. And this is understood. We do not want to be afraid. And yet, considering the world that we live in, fear is such a big part of our experience. Fear is not who we are. That for a moment lingered on my tongue, and I want to say it, and I didn't say it because fear is not who we are. It is an energy that we simply connect with. And it is very easy, and I would say natural, based on the state of the world and how we're being taught, our conditioned personality, to identify with it and see that fear is a reason, it's a purpose. But I want to share with you a few points today before we jump into meditation. Hello, Stephanie. Good to see you here. Hi, Karen. Hey, Kimberly. I want to share with you a few things to put the experience of fear into perspective, because it is very important, and this is going to be my objective for this session, to shed some light and perhaps change your relationship with fear. Fear, first and foremost, is a protective energy. It's something that allows us to evolve the way we are. And it always will be present to some extent as an energy in our nervous system. So it is a reflection of our nervous system, and the main purpose when you feel afraid is for your nervous system to keep you safe. This is the first and the most fundamental purpose of fear, of experience of fear in your life, to keep you safe. And right here at the start of our discussion, I really like to say that this is a good thing. Fear, if experienced consciously, gives us a valuable information about the state of our safety or lack of thereof. And as a result of that, one thing that I'd like to clarify is that fear is not a weakness. It is not a spiritual failure. When we understand fear and look at fear as a protective energy within our nervous system, you begin to heal and respect that process instead of resisting it. Hello, Gwendolyn. And I very much understand this is a tremendous ask. It's a very courageous act to act in spite of the fear. And you may say, all right, that's a good chat. That's a good theory. And now, if I'm afraid, what can I do? How can I really deal with it? How I can, as the topic of today's session is, overcome this fear that I experience. The fear that, as Tomek said, is somewhere in my nervous system, and it's a mix of nervous or electric impulses and hormones and whatnot. So what can I do? And I think there are many things that one can do. And one of the things is take a pill that numb you up, that switch off the signal, right? That's what we want. Very often we live in times where pharma companies dominate our life. I know very few people that do not medicate themselves in one way or another, mostly because it's the easiest thing to do. We simply don't want, as I said already, we don't want to feel afraid. So we do everything in our power to not be afraid. But doesn't stop taking a pill or breathing deeply or meditating doesn't stop us from being afraid. Unfortunately, no. It simply postpones something that it's still within our nervous system. So today I ask you to once again redefine your relationship with the experience of fear as and that's my second point, as something that you can feel within your body, or your body even feels before your intellect can pick up on it. This is a tremendously important information for you. Your body feels the fear before the mind explains it. This is something that very few of us have ability to experience. If you go to a 10-day meditation retreat in the tradition of Vipassana, you'll be asked to pay attention to your bodily sensations. And very, very often what happens, you recognize that mind is secondary to the bodily sensation. There's some stimulus, usually external, that elicits a response within our nervous system, within our hormonal system, with our, say, your amygdala. It's the danger sensor in the middle of your brain that connects with the situation that is dangerous, and as a result produces a cascade of biochemical reactions that have a ripple effect through your body, and you experience it as what? Well, the typical presentation. It's tightness, contraction, heat, shallowness of breath. Feel free to share your experience with fear. And this is way before your mind decides to jump on that bandwagon and say, ooh, this and that, and so and so. And by the time you actually create the story, the fear has been present with your nervous system for some time, because your body already reacted. You just did not pick up on it because, well, most of us are not trained to experience any not negative. There's no negative emotions. There's only unpleasant emotions that feel unpleasant. So in today's session, see, I lost my breath somewhere along the way, and I decided to cut myself on it. I could carry on and lose breath even further, but awareness, which is the only tool for me to get back to who I am, brought me to this point and allowed me to recognize it. And fear is no different. But instead of paying attention to your breath during the meditation part, I will ask you to pay attention to your body sensations. And very quickly, you'll be able to recognize that this is something that you are not familiar with. You realize that that's not something I'm doing on the regular basis. When I feel tightness and contraction or heat or something wrong within my body or shallowness of breath, first of all, I build a story about it. I try to explain it. And again, I want to, right here, bring your attention to I. When I say I, that I is not really you, who you are, all multidimensional, many-faceted personality. Is just I as an intellect. The intellect builds the story. And what is intellect? Intellect is a bundle of stories that not even you created. We're not that original. We just borrowed it from the collective consciousness, mostly from the past, mostly from what other people or thousands of millions of people were afraid of over the centuries and millennia throughout our history of evolution, and they build on it. So we are not being original, we're simply adding our own take on the story that has been has been in the society and in our collective mind for so long. So what is healing in respect to that is to recognize that the story that the mind eye just explained to you is not the full picture. It's just one intellectual part of it. But that intellectual part is very powerful because we know that if we allow that story to continue, and we are very good about creating the stories. In one of my meditations, I say that we tend to add the narrative to the one point and bring characters and props and build a whole stage around one single event that started as a tightness in your chest, for instance. So we are very good. Your intellect, it's a very powerful tool. And for those who know me, I'm bringing my favorite sayings. Mind, it's a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. So what I'm asking you today is to recognize that perhaps the mind that you have been identified with is just one aspect of the story. And there are many different aspects of it. Austin shares, my ears turn red and I sweat no matter what. We equate stress for fear. And especially in America, we compete for who is the most stressed. What is so empowering is that I have the same reaction when I'm excited or ignited. That is such a very good point. Excitement and fear on the physiological level are not that different. And we know for a fact one of these sensations is much more beneficial than the other. It's inspirational. It inspires our creativity versus cut down our wings. So thank you so much for sharing that, Austin. So coming back to the story that tends to bring more of the fear that we are on any level try to avoid is or will be in our meditation one of those aspects that we use our awareness to deconstruct. Okay? And so I make 2 points. First of all, the story that we telling ourselves is not necessarily true. Fear is not bad. It is a protective intelligence, not an enemy. That's what I invite you to recognize today. Second, very practical tip towards how to overcome and deal with fear. The body feels fear before mind explains it. Fear starts within the body, and the thoughts follow up. And third one is what we resist intensifies. And I'm sure that you know the saying that I used during the sessions of Conscious Living Collective many times. What you resist, it persists. But also, very important, the third part of the saying, what you resist persists and intensifies or grows if we let it. If we let the autopilot to continue the narrative. And right here, at this point, I just want to say that we collectively here have the power to stop the vicious circle. Individually, we might be too weak. We might be too afraid, so to speak. But when you recognize that there's 50, I see the 56 joined us. 50 people right now sitting in front of the screen and considering that, that's a game changer. You are not a single nut. You are a part of a bigger collective. You feel supported, recognized, and through that comes courage. And courage, and this is another point I want to make before we jump into meditation, courage is not absence of fear. Courage It's a singular feeling that allows you to take action in the presence of fear. So even when your nervous system, see, I have to take another deep breath because I feel I'm running out of air. Maybe it is a stress response. Who knows? So, courage, both individual and collective, allows us to recognize the fear, what we'll do in a second, and the level of the body, and see for what it is. See the layer that it's a foundation for the intellectual narrative, and allow the intellectual narrative to stand on the side and focus your awareness, which is the moving force, which is the source from which everything comes, and focus on the bodily sensations. Okay? And that makes such a tremendous difference for all of us who feel afraid. And I know for a fact that there are many things, considering the situation on our planet, the geopolitical situation, the environmental situation, our own personal predicament. There are, on the level of the story, there will always be something to allow your mind to be captivated with on the level of fear. As a matter of fact, fear is arguably one tool that has been consistently used throughout the history, if you look at the history of the governments and media, to control emotional response of the populace, of the crowd. If you say something positive, it's a very poor tool to actually elicit a change on the collective level. If you introduce the fear into collective, it turns out it's a very powerful stimulus. And on the level of governments and institutions, that has been known for a very long time. And both media, social media as the normal media, and governments consciously use that story to manipulate our attention. Why? Because our intelligence is so very deeply pulled towards any information that elicits fearful emotion or fearful experience. There is a reason for that. We evolved from that. And as long as that fear serves our purpose, we can deal with it. But now this fearful response has been used against us and used us to manipulate. So another point I'm trying to make today, and the invitation for us now, 60 of us from around the world, to come together and in the name of your own well-being, in the name of your own larger self, outside of the mental narrative, to come together and consider this. Feel that you are not just the mental narrative. You are not only the story that perpetuates throughout this history, throughout, particularly now, that's being so tremendously amplified concerning the situation in the world. This is just a one layer. And we are so much more. So we are combining this together. Do you have any comments or questions with respect to what I said? I understand that what I said, maybe it's not popular view And it's, by the way, only view. I'm not asking you to believe me. I simply ask you to test the theory and put it into practice, as we will in a moment in our meditation. Carmela, thank you so kindly for your generous donation. And on that note, I want to thank all of you for your contributions, for your donations that help me to simply pay bills. This is in a nutshell, that's what it is. It won't stop me from creating, being part of Conscious Living Collective and facilitating our interaction, because this is so much more important than anything I've done in my life. And it's so thrilling and it's so fulfilling. But yeah, your donations help on the level, on the one of the levels, which is basically paying for the bills and for electricity, for internet and for the equipment and everything. So thank you so much. I just explained myself why your contributions are so important. So Anita says, I have plenty from my condition experience, therefore I mindfully disconnect myself from the government, etc. And that's exactly what I invite you to. Use your intellect as it's meant to be used, to discern and to deconstruct your experience, as opposed to be led and manipulated into something that maybe it's not part of who you are and not part of what you want on the level that it's beyond your mind. Katrina, it's scary and different, but refreshing to see different perspective. Yeah, this is very much in the vein of Conscious Living Collective. We gather here approximately once a week, and my intention is always to bring an alternative perspective, or maybe a fresh perspective that you're already familiar with. So I'm not sharing any revolutionary content. This content is already out there. I'm simply reframing it through my own conscious awareness and share with you to facilitate our togetherness, to empower you collectively and individually to have your own say. That doesn't, on this particular situation, does not come from the level of the intellect, what you've heard and how you are conditioned, but comes from, again, in this meditation, the level of your body. Listen to your body intelligence and what does it tell you. Thank you so much, Karen. Iro says, I'm a bit confused about not resisting would lead to overcoming fear. Very good question. So resistance that I am referring to in this particular case, when you feel afraid, on the first, we are being trained to first recognize fear on the level of the intellect, right? And we are, by definition and by our nature, we are there to oppose. If there is a situation that makes us afraid, your mind jumps to the conclusion, says, no, I don't want it. But today, and then usually you build a narrative that says, oh, I don't want because this and that, and I have a moral right to do it, and from the past, it doesn't work for me, and so on and so forth. And by the time you recognize, you actually amplify, because being in this story builds an emotional charge and energetical charge within your nervous system, even if you don't want it. This is what I call resisting. So in today's meditation, we are creating a short circuit. And before we jump to the narrative, we stay within the body sensations. And you will see for yourself that if you put the narrative aside and focus on the bodily sensations, the experience is different. Again, you may feel heat, tightness, shortness of breathing, but that bodily sensations will be much easier to deal with. And they, by the way, they transform very quickly rather than the narrative itself. Ellen says, fear is probably from an older part of the brain. You have to bring your cortex into it. Yeah, so this is moving, you're absolutely right. We have the inner part of the brain, as we call the reptilian brain, that again, it acts on instinct. It's very beneficial. It protects us from the danger. But then when we bring in the fear and start expanding into cortex, we have two paths. If it's on autopilot, it brings us more fearful energy into your nervous system. But my only mean of communicating with you are words, and they are intellectual words. So I am trying to appeal to your cortex, your intellectual understanding of this concept, and invite you to stop there and then move into the sensations. So very good point. Parvane, I feel through my meditation practice and identifying my feelings, I'm a little less paralyzed by my fear. That's exactly that's the first-hand experience I'm talking about. See for yourself if you are able to rewire your cortex, to be more precise, to change your relationship with external fear that comes to you. So what we are changing effectively by focusing on the sensations and overriding the narrative, we are rewiring your cortex, the filter through which the experience being filtered into your awareness, and changing the nature of the relationship. Carmela asked, what is the connection between fear and anxiety? That's a very good question. My answer to it is that on the level of your nervous systems, they are siblings. If you would measure the response of your nervous systems and the cocktail of hormones that flow through your bloodstream, they will be very similar. On the level of the bodily sensations, though, you will get much more precise answer. And, Carmela, I'll invite you to check it for yourself. When your intellect tags an experience as fear, which part of your body you feel it in? When you feel anxious, which part of your body you're feeling it in? Tune in to the quality of the bodily sensation. Yeah. Austin replies to Parvane's comment. I resonate with the idea of self-paralysis. Being able to see these emotions is so powerful. Perpetuating, as I said in point 3, what we resist intensifies to the point of paralysis. Fight, flight, or freeze. One of the fundamental responses of your body before you even intellectualize that has evolved over centuries and millennia in our body. And this is something, once again, something to protect us, not something that is there to cause us harm. On the contrary, it's the protective field, protective intelligence that evolved to get us out of danger. Fight, flight, or freeze. All right? These are the 3 fundamental responses that we are all familiar with. And today, once again, in just a moment, we will go into meditation in which we recognize how to override that instinctual response. not through intellectualizing it, as I do right now, not to saying words, but bouncing between, because that ultimately will happen, between the narrative and the bodily sensation. We will be drawn to the mind because mind is very sticky. Fearful thoughts are very sticky. So every time you recognize the thought, come back to the bodily sensation. Back and forth. Meditation is practice of 1,000 returns. And that's what we will do. Yeah, Carmela recognizes heart area, right? Is the energy, that's where the biofield of your body is created. The torus biofield energy that we can measure with our scientific instruments starts within your heart. Your heart creates very strong electromagnetic field that surrounds us in that donut-shaped way. The electromagnetic waves circulate our body and come through the center of your heart. So there we go. Just add a bit of science to it, just to clarify more. Okay. Now it's time to jump into the practical part. Conscious Living Collective is about having your first-hand experience. And if you still have doubts or questions, that's good. Let's take them in. Let's take them into meditation. And I know I will repeat myself, but I cannot get over Peter Helen's Forest Whispers, which is the music that will accompany our meditation. I wanted to play other piece, which is called Within. And then my intuition told me, no, go back. Sorry, I'm just trying to, there we go. Go back to Forest Whisper. Because if we are afraid, we can always experience relief when we do it in nature. So since not all of us can sit in the forest, on the meadow in this very moment, I will share with you the closest thing I have, which is a music that hopefully will set up a stage for our exploration. Forest Whisper by Peter Helen. It's so nice and reassuring to see your faces under my screen. I wish you all a very pleasant experience. And I'll switch the screen to the meditation screen. Fear is a protective intelligence that is built in through our body and reflects in the narrative of our mind. In this meditation, I would like to invite you to consider what's commonly is called fear as a layer to the larger experience. So begin by recognizing how you feel right now. Not by the story that your mind tries to tell you, but by the sensations that you feel within your body, so-called interoception. you have an ability to sense your body beyond the physical senses. It is a subtle sensation that goes and moves from place to place. It's always dynamic, changes and fluctuates. And that layer of sensations is always at your disposal. And in this meditation, will help you to understand better your relationship with fear. Right now, I will ask you to bring to your mind first thing that you are afraid of. A scenario, a situation, a person, something from the past, or something that you are afraid that still has not come to the past, something in the future. And in the next step, recognize the sensations within your body, wherever they appear, as a result of what you just brought to your mind. Tightness, contraction, heat. Perhaps this story is reflected through the change in your breathing. See for yourself, where is the highest intensity of the sensations? Allow yourself to experience it. And, as it may happen, your attention will return to the narrative, to the story. Simply recognize it and come back to the layer of sensations. It is being called somatic awareness. Awareness of your body on the level of subtle energies that transpire into intellect, into your cortex, so to speak. And see for yourself how dynamic these sensations are, how they change and fluctuate. Approach them with curiosity rather than judgment. If your mind returns the narrative in a form of, I do not want to feel it, this is normal. This is your mind creating a story that is designed to take you away from the experience and stay with the only thing that the mind has at its disposal, which is the story. But remember, the story is not the experience, but the description of that experience. And knowing that, come back to the somatic awareness that informs the mind. Curiosity turns into acceptance. Acceptance turns into compassion and understanding. No longer resisting, but allowing yourself to experience this part of yourself that feels hurt, that feels afraid, that feels misunderstood. And as always, I'm here by your side to support you on your journey, to hold the space, to offer my encouragement. And I will bring you back after a few minutes when the time of this exploration is up. And now it's time to move back. Shift your awareness to include your entire body. And once again, on the level of intellect, give a label to this current experience. Have you noticed a shift? Do you perceive any difference? Express your gratitude for the time you have given yourself to learn more about the deeper layer of the self outside of the compulsive thinking and intellectual understanding, and know that you can always return to this space and deepen this connection, deepen the understanding of the self, of the level of your body. Right now, I want to ask you to gently wiggle your toes, move your fingers, and finish up with one deep cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And when ready, open your eyes and welcome back. Thank you so much for meditating with me. Thank you so much for holding the space and collectively creating something very unique and special. Thank you, Charmaine. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Austin. So, for those of you who still have a moment to share your experience, please do. Say if there was anything different between the relationship with your thoughts and the somatic awareness, what you felt in your body. I'm glad, Karen. Karen says, I thoroughly enjoyed this session. It was lovely. It is always lovely. That's why I keep coming back. I learn something new about myself, about you, about the world. Thank you, Leonardo from Brazil. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for co-creating this experience, for your contribution, your presence. It was, if I may share, I definitely felt a difference moving through the practice when at the beginning there was a lot of tightness. Must have brought it onto myself. Talking about the fear, I must have manifested something, my response of my nervous system. And then gradually, maybe 2/3 in, I started feeling a relief, as if something dropped. And again, my intellect wants to understand what it was, but I stopped myself intentionally from analyzing this experience. What I want to more of is coming back to the spaciousness of my inner body, interoception, and explore it more on the basis of first-hand experience rather than talking about it. Oh, our Iro. Crying, we know for a fact, is a sign of release and relief. So something has been transformed within you during this meditation, which is wonderful. Matt, good to release and let go, indeed. Seth. Fear is a powerful subject, and for that reason, this was a wonderful, productive session for me. Thank you. Thank you, Seth. Always great to see you here. Sandy, thank you for choosing such a beautiful piece of music. So peaceful, calming, restorative. I couldn't agree more. Please give a round of applause to Peter Helland and Forest Whisper. You can find him on Inside Timer. He gave me permission to use his music as a background for our exploration, and I'm very grateful to him. But go to his profile, and his library is very extensive. Very, very beautiful music. Oh, Parvane. Yeah. And I could feel the physical difference between fear and anxiety in my body, then a feeling of release. Maybe that release that I experienced was a collective thing. What do you think? Maybe it wasn't just me. It was all of us here. By the way, according to my dashboard, 108 that joining. Yeah, okay. Parvana felt it. Yeah. Carmela felt it. Austin felt it. Sandy. Anybody else? Please raise your hand. I'm very curious to know because it's very... Yeah, Diane? I started to feeling tightness just hearing the word fear, comforting to know its protective energy during the meditation, just focusing on my symptoms of chest and jaw tightness helped me to stop creating stories. Yes, it was also tearful. So I think we stumbled upon something very important, a collective experience indeed. Please, I really encourage you to raise your hand if you felt that too, the sense of release and maybe tears coming. I'm very curious about this experience from a scientific point of view because it's just me. Oh, well, it's my personal experience, be it as it may. But it seems like there are more having very similar experience. Okay, Katrina, Anne. So I want to pick on that because I always say that intellectually about Conscious Living Collective that we create something, and it definitely, we all have individual experience, but now I want to point out towards the collective nature of that, which was a sense of release, that being followed by tears. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, Austin, knowing we all collectively were releasing various level of fear makes me cry in a beautiful, supportive, exuberant, and radiant way. Thank you, Austin. I know for a fact you are holding this space with all of us here in a very significant way. So I'm so grateful for your presence. Yeah, I believe it flows in a good part from the collective, Seth says. Yeah, Parvan and Anita, they resonate. Katrina, no idea what I released. No tears though. And again, this is something I encourage you to do. Do not try to think about, oh, well, what was released? Oh, maybe this trauma, maybe that. Something was released. How about we deepen that and maybe connect with the sense of release right now? Enjoy the first-hand experience of release. Beautiful. Well, thanks to all of you for your presence, for another wonderful session of Conscious Living Collective. I dare say that we did a good living during the past hour. Thank you so much for your donations. Thank you very much for your kindness and support. I will not be here on Monday. It's Monday for me, Sunday for most of you, I'm guessing, because I have one day commitment. But I may create a session for your Monday and my Tuesday. So the easiest way to stay up to date with the sessions of Conscious Living Collective is to follow me on Inside Timer on my profile and hit the notification bell. And then you will see on your app when is the next session. Also, you can send me a private message on Inside Timer or outside. There's my website under my profile through which you can connect with me. There are many different ways. And for those of you who want more meaningful and deeper interaction one-on-one, I also offer that outside of Inside Timer. So you're welcome to join that too. But for now, I want to wish you a pleasant day or restful night, wherever you are. I will leave you with Peter Helland and his Forest Whisper. It was lovely to being with you tonight.